So welcome to another episode of Spotlight. We're live here at Next Summit New York 2026, and I'm here with Zoe Ebling, VP of Interactive at AGS. So welcome, Zoe.
Thank you.
What we're going to talk about today is adjacent markets and the rise of sweepstakes, HHR, Class 2. So my first question is, we've heard a lot this week about sweepstakes and, of course, as you can imagine, prediction markets as well and emerging verticals, HHR and Class 2 online gaming. So from your perspective, Zoe, why are we suddenly seeing a lot more interest in these adjacent models?
I think it's pretty simple. If you think about it, when iGaming in the US opened up, it was sort of the promised land. There was a lot of opportunity. Now we have lots of competition in the market. And ultimately, we just haven't seen states regulate. And so when the jurisdictional landscape shrinks, people are going to move the opposite direction. So I think really each of these verticals, while they're different, really signal the same thing, which is the market's innovation is outpacing the regulatory speed.
Yeah, but the appetite as well for, you know, the games, the entertainment, the players, there's their appetite, so they're going to look for it wherever they can find it.
Exactly.
And what do you, with these models, what do they have in common? You did say like they have those links, those commonalities. You've got sweepstakes, historical horse racing, and Class 2. They seem quite different, but like you said, there's the commonalities. Are there any particular commonalities?
Yeah, again, I just think it goes towards the need for growth. And one of the interesting things about what we're seeing in iGaming is that it's not just specific to this industry. If you look at the tobacco industry, right, the synthetic nicotine totally revolutionized that space. And that was really born out of people not smoking as much, a regulatory crackdown, and a need for that industry to expand into something new. And that completely revolutionized the industry. I think each of the verticals that you've just talked about have the ability to revolutionize. This time last year, sweeps was a thing on everybody's lips. Now it's predictive markets. Class 2 online has the ability to completely change the landscape in the US as well. So all of these things are really in that same kind of speed of needing to look for the next dollar. And I think that is an exciting time, but it's also a bit of a dangerous time because each of us, our businesses, are placing bets on where we think our next dollar can come from. And you could have a really well-positioned company make a mistake, and 10 years from now, we could be looking at a completely different landscape of players.
Yeah. And are there other industries that have, well, you mentioned actually the tobacco industry.
Yeah.
Perhaps, you know, the alcohol industry, those heavy regulated industries, they have those commonalities as well. Are there any other industries that have gone through those similar phases? And, you know, what sort of adjacent models might be coming next?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think cannabis is an industry we often get compared to as well. My sister lives in North Carolina, which is a state that doesn't have legalized marijuana, but I went into the liquor store and there was THC drinks that were available because of a hemp loophole that a lot of companies have found. And I think this really is where gaming was born, right? We have slot machines because we innovated from bingo to Class 2 to eventually Class 3. But it's every regulated industry. And I think the commonality that we see in these things that happen, though, are oftentimes just a lot of risks. We're pushing the bounds, which is exciting, but without regulation and looking for loopholes, people can get hurt in the process of that. Like going back to the tobacco industry, I think like the rise of vaping, perhaps it's better than smoking, but also now we have a whole new demographic and population of people that are smoking, and arguably we know it's better to not smoke or vape at all. So it's going to be interesting where things move. I think prediction markets, which has been covered a lot at this show, is like the leading revolutionary piece that we have in front of us. If we have 3 states that legalize, next week, is prediction markets. I think it still will be super relevant, but if we had 15 states, that's going to be the best kind of counter reaction to some of the adjacencies that we might fear have consequences to them.
Mm-hmm. So would you say, there's that sort of risk to the explosive growth itself? There's risk that comes with that.
Prediction markets has the ability to completely change the landscape into something that we've never seen or really considered before, right? So, but I think where there's risk, there's reward. So we could very well be in a position where we have access to some type of gambling across all states, whereas now we're left to 7. And it would be a completely different product than the online product that we have now, but we might be able to build it in a way that the player wouldn't necessarily understand. I mean, that's a really exciting and also a little bit terrifying situation to be in, too.
Yeah. I mean, the question becomes like, how do we make it sustainable and still safe? If the explosive growth were to go across all 50 states, how does it become sustainable and still safe for players to enjoy making a prediction and putting some money against it?
I really think leveraging AI for responsible gambling, and if we had some of these companies that were going to start this new venture, that were really committed to, hey, I'm going to inject a gamified ability to help a player understand when they might be spending too much. If we have responsible parties coming forward saying, I'm going to go on this journey in this new segment, but I'm going to do so responsibly, I think we have a much better chance of that being scalable. And I think that we're probably not doing enough in that front. If regulation isn't going to be fast enough, then we have to be willing to go into these new areas with a mindset of, how do I do this responsible? How do I do this scalable? So it doesn't just turn into, I need $1, so I'm going to go into this market, but it becomes something that's sustainable over the years. Yeah,
and that becomes, beyond a regulation question. It becomes a question of the back-end suppliers. Who is building a safe system and a back-end that can actually enable this through use of AI, for example. So it requires a lot of people to work together with a lot of different skill sets and platforms and abilities to actually make that a reality.
But there's a lot of profitability in this as well. I remember Kindred doing a presentation a couple of years ago at one of the shows and talking about how they implemented safer gambling measures, and they saw that they actually attracted more players to their site, and that it was a really profitable initiative for them. So I think that piece is really important that we make peace with in order to move forward in the right way.
Yeah. And looking ahead, do you see that these adjacent models, are they more of temporary experiments, or do they have potential permanency?
I think time will tell. Right now, it's not clear. I think sweeps was something that was a lot more dominant that has faded out. Predictive markets seems like it's something that will stick around. But I think people said that about sweeps last year. So it's a little bit time will tell.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, with those sweeps, is it, well, the question is that, did it fizzle out a little bit with sweeps because of the heavy regulation, or was it because players just found something new?
Heavy regulation. Yeah. There's still a player base, and that's one of the things we said at the start of this, right? The hunger for the consumer appetite right now for this space far outweighs where we are in a regulatory and far outweighs where we are on an innovation. And that's why we also can go into all these adjacencies, because people just want to try and play so many different ways.
They'll find a way.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you've also been walking the floor at the next summit this week. What's one topic or trend that people might not expect that keeps coming up in the conversations that you've had? So, of course, prediction markets has been that really big trend, really big conversation. Is there anything that maybe we're overlooking that has been on your radar?
One of the things that I've heard a lot today, which you guys actually have a session tomorrow that you'll address, so I'm excited to attend that one, is really about the application of AI. Like myself included, was on a panel about AI, and there's a lot of high level topics and maybe, certain examples that we've dove into about where we're using AI. But like one of the things I said today is, how many times have you heard some manager say to their employee, well, why don't you just use ChatGPT to figure it out? But given no instruction of how to actually leverage it, understanding if there's enterprise, what can I put in here? And so I think there still is really a big gap, even from people that use AI all the time, about, am I using it effectively? And that piece, I think, is still missing from how we talk about it together. And it might be out of fear. I don't want to give you my idea, but truly, if you're working in AI, like every single day, you're having 5 new things that you're implementing a week. So we shouldn't feel so scared to share a little bit about the wins that we're creating behind the scenes.
Yeah, for sure. Would it be fair to label that as AI fluency, or?
That's, I think the session that you guys have tomorrow, which is
the AI fluency.
Yeah.
I think the same, actually. That's something that really resonated with me, is that one thing that I think a lot of people potentially are lacking is the fluency to know which tool to use at the right time, and then how to use those tools effectively. And prompt engineering is becoming a thing, and knowing how to engineer the best prompt. So it's going to be an exciting time, and I think it's much needed.
Yeah, definitely.
Thank you so much, Zoe.
Of course.